The bourbon quivered in my grip, its amber glow catching the faint shimmer of the chandelier while bursts of laughter swelled around me. Elise leaned in close to him, a colleague with slicked-back hair named Marcus, her tone playful, sharp enough to cut through the room's murmur. "Oh, Marcus, stop," she whispered, fingertips brushing his sleeve, her smile alive in a way I hadn't seen in months. Then she looked my way, tossed her words like a dart. "Don't mind my roommate over there." Roommate. The syllables landed harder than a blow. 8 years together, 2 losses we never spoke of, and a mortgage that smothered us both. Yet in that instant, I was reduced to a stranger in my own marriage. My chest clenched, but I forced my lips into a smile, the kind meant to muffle the scream inside. The party pulsed on, glittering around me. Our living room glowed with crystal flutes and perfume, trays of canapés drifting through clusters of her colleagues from the law firm. I had spent hours perfecting the setting, lighting softened, platters arranged, playing the part of the supportive husband while Elise dazzled in her emerald dress. But standing by the fireplace, I felt less like a host and more like a trespasser. Marcus's laughter echoed, and Elise leaned toward him again, his palm grazing the small of her back. My mind spun. Was I inventing the intimacy? The way her eyes lingered, warm and unguarded, eyes that now met mine only with dismissive jokes. The bourbon burned down my throat, steadying me, though nothing could quiet the splinter of doubt pressing deeper. She'd been drifting from me for months. Late nights, screens turned away, a perfume I didn't know. I told myself it was the case she was working, the weight of our grief, the stress she carried. But then I thought of the text I'd seen flash across her phone last week, Marcus's name glowing before she yanked it from sight. "Work," she'd said, too sharply. I had nodded, swallowing unease. That's what trust is, isn't it? Or maybe just denial dressed in devotion. I drifted through the crowd, my attention locked on her, remembering when her laughter had been mine. Now it rang out for him, as he leaned close to whisper something that made her tilt her head back, throat exposed, eyes glittering. My chest ached with a storm of longing and anger. I wanted to cut through the charade, confront her, but my legs wouldn't move. Fear pinned me to the floor. In the kitchen, the clink of dishes offered a brief refuge. Sarah, our neighbor, stood at the sink rinsing glasses, her gaze soft with understanding. "You okay, Tom?" she asked gently. I nodded, though her eyes stayed on me as though she could see every crack I tried to cover. The evening stretched into torment. Elise's hand lingering on Marcus's shoulder, his self-satisfied grin as he topped off her wine, and her refusal to look for me, not once. I pressed my palm against the cold window, staring out at the snow-brushed street, wondering if the life we built had already turned to ash. Memories churned, her silence in bed, her excuses, her laughter that now felt rehearsed. Yet I couldn't shake the echo of the woman who had once clung to me, broken after our second miscarriage, whispering, "We'll get through this, Tom." Was that love gone, or just buried under everything we'd lost? I couldn't bear it any longer. I slipped away, climbing the stairs as the party noise softened to a low hum. In the bedroom, her phone waited on the dresser, dark screen glowing with temptation. My hand trembled as I picked it up. The passcode hadn't changed. Our anniversary. 0608. The realization struck with a sting that felt almost rehearsed, like a nightmare I'd dreamed too often. My hands shook as I opened her messages, and there it was, a long thread with Marcus, stretching back farther than I cared to count. "Miss you already," he'd written just the day before. "Last night was incredible," she'd answered. My vision blurred. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed, the phone suddenly scorching my skin. I scrolled, hotel confirmations, shared photos, whispered promises to make it work. Each line was another knife, carving away the version of my life I thought was real. Downstairs, muffled laughter spilled up through the floorboards from the party we'd been hosting. Their joy felt like a cruel parody of mine, mocking me with every cheer and clink of a glass. For a few moments, I fought to convince myself there was another explanation. Maybe the texts weren't what they looked like. Maybe she'd been lonely. Maybe I hadn't tried hard enough. That thought hurt most of all, that somehow her betrayal might be my fault. But the evidence was there, heavy and undeniable. No misunderstanding could explain her words, her secrecy, the intimacy she'd given away. She hadn't stumbled into this. She had chosen it. She had chosen him. The woman who once promised me forever had, piece by piece, reduced me to an afterthought, a roommate who paid bills and shared space, while she gave her heart elsewhere. I caught my reflection in the mirror. My face was pale, almost colorless, my eyes sunken and raw. I looked like a ghost, and in that moment, I felt like one, haunting a life that no longer belonged to me. I could go downstairs, demand answers, explode in front of the guests. I could drag her into the harsh light of truth and watch her crumble. But that felt hollow, too fleeting. She'd chosen her path. Exposing her wouldn't give me back what I'd lost. So instead, I stood and pulled a duffel bag from the closet. My movements were mechanical, as though my body had decided for me. Shirts, socks, jeans, my toothbrush. Each item I folded was like a tiny act of rebellion, a quiet announcement that I was no longer staying. When I reached the nightstand, I froze. The photo there stopped me cold, our honeymoon, both of us drenched in rain, laughing like the world belonged to us. I held it for a long moment, my throat burning, then placed it back where it was, face up. Not for me, but for her. A reminder of what she'd thrown away. By the time I made it downstairs, the party was thinning out. The air smelled of wine and cologne, the floor littered with discarded napkins and empty glasses. Guests slipped into the snowy night, laughing as they zipped coats and wrapped scarves. Elise stood near the door, her smile bright and practiced as she said goodbye to each of them. No sign of Marcus. She didn't notice me until I was halfway out, my bag slung across my shoulder. "Tom," she said, her voice breaking mid-word. I stopped and turned. Her expression shifted, confusion first, then something like fear. "Where are you going?" she asked, stepping toward me, her voice quieter now, trembling at the edges. Her eyes darted, searching mine for a clue, a lifeline. But beneath all that searching, I saw the flicker of guilt. It was there, etched into her face no matter how she tried to hide it. The last of the guests slipped out, the door closed, and the house fell silent. The only sound was the low hum of the heater, filling the space where laughter had been minutes earlier. I could have unleashed it all, thrown her phone at her feet, demanded she explain, forced her to watch me break. But I didn't. The silence felt sharper, heavier. I wanted her to feel that weight, the absence that was about to engulf her. "Somewhere I'm not just a roommate," I said finally. My voice was calm, though inside I was unraveling. Her face crumpled as though she'd been struck. For an instant, I caught a glimpse of the woman I had loved, the one who once held me in the rain and whispered about forever. But then the memories of those messages pressed in again. The promises, the laughter, the intimacy she'd given to someone else. And that image of her, the one I loved, dissolved into a stranger I couldn't recognize. I turned and stepped into the night. Snowflakes clung to my hair, melted on my skin, and the bitter cold bit into me, grounding me in its cruelty. The street was quiet, streetlights casting halos of yellow that blurred as tears threatened, though I refused to let them fall. Behind me, Elise's voice cut through the stillness. She called my name, once, then again, sharper, more desperate. But the night swallowed her cries, muffling them until they were nothing but echoes behind me. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The duffel bag dragged at my shoulder, but not nearly as heavy as the truth pressing against my chest. I had given her everything, my trust, my devotion, the best of me, and she had traded it for stolen nights, whispered promises, and the thrill of secrecy. As I disappeared into the snowy dark, I left her with the emptiness she had created. A house stripped of warmth, a bed half empty, walls that would echo with silence instead of laughter. And the truth, her truth, that no matter where she ran, she could never escape.